Well, Nigerians have expressed divergent views on Monday's nationwide broadcast by President Bola Tinubu. In the broadcast, the president urged Nigerians to look beyond the present tough state of the country and focus on the larger picture, adding that his administration will not let Nigerians down. He says the federal government has saved 1 trillion from the removal of the petrol subsidy since it was announced 2 months ago. But Mr. Tinubu's address, while compelling, has also faced some opposition, as the Nigeria Labour Congress or the NLC says the president's speech appeared to be out of touch with reality and anomalous with the hardship and suffering that most Nigerians are going through at the moment. Leaders of the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress have, after a meeting with the Presidential Steering Committee on Palliatives, refused to state clearly whether they still intend to proceed with their scheduled protest on Wednesday or not. All of this comes as the National Assembly is screening ministerial nominees that will make up the president's cabinet and steer the affairs of the country.
Our economy is going through a tough patch, and you are being hurt by it, I know. The cost of fuel has gone up. Food and other prices have followed it. Households and businesses struggling. Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were, I would have taken that route, as I came here to help, not to hurt the people and the nation that I love so dearly. Fellow Nigerians, this period may be hard on us, and there is no doubt that it's tough on us. But I urge you all to look beyond the present temporary pains and aim at the larger picture. All our good and helpful plans are in the works. More importantly, I know that they will work.
That's an assurance from the president. More importantly, he says they will work. Now, for more on this, I'm joined live in the studio by Senator Enang, a former senior special assistant to the president to National Assembly matters. Good to see you and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
And I'm quite sure, like Nigerians, you've been able to go through that speech of the president. Many have said it was good a thing that the president spoke to Nigerians, and very timely too. But again, give us a sense of your initial thought when you watched the president address Nigerians on Monday.
I think I didn't just read the speech. I listened to the president live when the speech was made at 7 p.m. And Mr. President showed empathy, showed fatherhood, showed compassion, and appealed. He wasn't challenging Nigerians. He wasn't saying, look, take it or leave it. And he said, if there were other ways, I would have done it. And yet there is no other way. Nigerians should please remember that under President Buhari, emeritus president, we had said from 2 years ago.
I was going to take you back on that. You said President Emeritus.
Emeritus President Buhari.
Yes, why did you say that?
It's former president who served meritoriously and had completed his tenure. President Buhari, not Tinubu. Tinubu is a serving president. No, because
I thought he was still giving his services as president without being... You know when you say...
not honorary president.
Now, all right, I needed us to clear that.
The government had said, look, we were borrowing to pay even salaries. We were running this country on credit. There is no money to do many things. And 4 or 5 months to the end of that administration, the then Minister of Finance said, look, the revenue is not matching even the debt servicing. So we are borrowing. Now, when President Tinubu came, should he keep borrowing? Even if you wish to borrow, there is what they call credit rating. You may not even be able to get credit again. Come to the level of the central bank. We have almost overdrawn our goodwill. Immediately this National Assembly came, we had to ask for approval of some large amount of money, ways and means. So Mr. President was very, very apologetic to Nigerians, not for what he has done, but for managing the situation as it were. And I remember he said, look, I asked for it, don't pity me. And he showed yesterday that, look, he's not seeking anybody's pity, but that he's saying, look, I asked for it. I knew the situation is as this. This is how it is. Now, I want to appeal to Nigerians that we should have some patience with the administration. Patience because Mr. President is just about to constitute his cabinet. I believe that in the next few days, he will have cause to swear in his ministers and will have the cabinet sitting. He will offload this, much of this from his head and keep on the head of the Federal Executive Council, who will help him think, where will we have money? Where will we raise extra funds? So while he waits for this, I want Nigerians to please still have patience. It is difficult for me to say have patience because I feel it. We feel it. But if you feel it, what can you do? You know, it's like, I'm sure you witnessed that for quite a while, that I've been shouting that we are borrowing too much, that what we finish borrowing, what our children will pay, that we've gotten into borrowing what our grandchildren will pay, you know. So and now it has fallen on the head of President Tinubu to manage us out of it. And of course, I am excited that he has started he's continuing with this very temperate, solemn appeal to the citizens.
Okay, let me come in here because there seems to be something that many Nigerians are not getting right, even though the president said he was going to speak in play language and cut the jargon,
yes,
and just dwell on the concepts. But quickly here, he said, if you go to paragraph 4 of that speech, he said specifically that there is a group that has amassed so much wealth and power that they became a serious threat to the fairness of our economy and integrity. And he also went down again to refer to them as the elite of the elite. Yeah. Now, speak to us. If a president is addressing Nigerians and saying categorically about the existence of such bodies of Nigerians, how is it so difficult at this moment we haven't actually seen side-by-side interrogation of some of these people that have actually caused the nation so much pain that we are in?
You have to have your full team on seat. That is his cabinet. So that he will know who is in charge of the police, who is in charge of intelligence, who is in charge of security, who is in charge of the economy, who is in charge of oil, who is in charge of the different bits that will need to ask these questions.
So you think he still will do that? He still will go all out?
He has told us he's not going to speak in jargons, in all the economic terms and all that he's open to us and he's going to speak in simple language. And he said it's been identified. And when you identify, it means you can solve. So I want Nigerians to believe him. And I want to urge Mr. President that Nigerians will hold you to it. And one of the things that he and his team will have to do as he comes in, as the team comes in, is to answer one question. And that question is simply one question, which arose peripherally in the Senate today. One question: who owns who?
Who owns who?
Who owns who? Is it Nigeria that owns oil and NNPC? Or is it NNPC and all the officers of NNPC and the oil sector that own Nigeria? Who owns who? Then go to central bank. Who owns who? Is it central bank that owns Nigeria? Or it is Nigeria that owns central bank? Because these two institutions have behaved as if they at the country called Nigeria. And Nigeria is simply a parastatal, and the citizens are simply the slaves, which they can treat anyhow. I'm sure if you followed me, Suleiman, when from 2010, 2009, 2010 in the House of Representatives, when I raised so much issue about the central bank. In 2011, I was in the Senate. I raised so much issue about the central bank. Then I followed up with a bill that the 2007 Act of the Central Bank and the 2007 Fiscal Responsibility Act, which Fiscal Responsibility Act that mandated the central bank to submit its budget to the National Assembly. They didn't. I brought a motion to the National Assembly. And Sanusi mobilized the whole managing directors of the banks in this country to come after me in Committee Room 1 in the Senate, to come after that to answer that the central bank cannot answer to the National Assembly. That the central bank is set up to be on its own. Sanusi, it was. Then the succession followed. So the question President Tinubu and his team as they're coming in should answer this question. In this question, they should answer who owns who. And if they now know that Nigeria, that it is not the central bank that owns Nigeria. It is not NNPC that owns Nigeria.
I hope you
they
don't.
should subject themselves.
I hope you don't lose your train of thought.
I'm fine. I'm not going where again.
No. I'm coming back because we need to space it before we leave that. But again, if you remember then, the argument then was about undue interference from the National Assembly.
No. The Fiscal Responsibility Act was passed almost the same time, but about 8 or 10 days difference. Fiscal Responsibility Act and Central Bank. So when we brought it up in the Senate, they said, look, no, that the Central Bank Act says they are independent. And we draw the attention to the fact that says, look, the Fiscal Responsibility, notwithstanding the provisions of each of the acts of the state of the institutions stated in the schedule to this act, that all of them are subject. Central Bank rejected. And when they started bringing it in a manner, and they never allow it to be considered on the floor. They will just do it with the committee and somehow, and I'm sure many senators will finish and go out, will not see the budget of the central bank. They will not make it.
When we say day, does this also fall within the paragraph 5 of what the president said? He says the whims of the few should never hold dominant sway over the hopes and aspirations of many.
I will not say yes, I will not say no. But if I were to interpret, I will say the whims of CBN and the whims of NNPC shall not hold all of us as captives. And unless and if we had held these two institutions and brought them under authority, like His Excellency the President of the Senate and the entire Senate made reference to it, when I think Adelabu, the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank from Oyo State, was interviewed, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON, took time to formulate all the issues and analyzed that these are the issues that this man has raised to. And these are all the issues that we've been raising, that do everything to bring these people under authority. Bring Central Bank under authority. Bring NNPC under authority.
Are you accusing these two institutions of also being a part of what Nigeria is going through?
I am saying categorically that Central Bank and NNPC are responsible for the economic misfortune of this country.
Then where's the place of politicians in this?
Well, I can't say yes, I can't say no, but maybe some people looked away, or most of us tried, and you tried, they resist. You tried, they resist. And when they resist, you move on to do other things.
Talking about resistance, the NLC has said, irrespective of what the president has said, they still would want to go on strike on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. So does that sit well with you, knowing that the president would have been able to speak to the minds and conscience of the labor union?
I want to say that the president, from day one, in his political career, has been labor friendly. He's of the SCN, he's of the movement that looks at the welfare of people, so of the welfarist bend of politics. And it will not be him coming up to the federal level that would want to take any action that will hurt labor or hurt Nigerians. Like I say, I'm hurt. We are all hurt. But what would he do, which he hasn't tried to do? What options are available, which he has not explored? So for labor, incidentally, I am a member of the federal government legal team who's been handling cases in respect of labor for the federal government under the leadership of Chris Nkige, CON, the emeritus former Minister of Labor. We handled most of those cases, J.U.K. with Falana on the other side. We've known the pains of this, and we've known that most of the times they run to the Lagos team to intervene, and they have always intervened in a manner that, because the labor has real great affiliation with them. Falana has good relationship with the President Tinubu's team and President Tinubu himself. I know Falana and the Labour Party, the Labour movement, the NLC, not Labour Party, I apologize. They all know that President Tinubu will not at all hurt the labor. I want to say that it's difficult, but the labor, I didn't hear them say strike, they say protest, but I hope by the time they conclude tonight, they will be able to change their mind and call it off.
You know, back then, let's backtrack a bit, and it's still about labor and its actions. You know, sometimes we've seen the unions go on strike and the government comes to say no work, no pay. Does that still subsist in Nigeria?
No, government cannot say no work, no pay. It is the law that says, Section 43 of the Trade Disputes Act says that for the period that you are on strike, that you are not to receive salaries. And President Tinubu was sworn in on the 29th of May this year. The following day, Justice Benedict Kandib, President of the National Industrial Court, delivered a landmark judgment, full considered judgment, that the federal government, that the Minister of Labor, the Minister of Education, and the federal government is right in saying that Academic Staff Union of Nigeria cannot be paid salary for the period of the 8 months that they were on strike. So it's a question of a judgment, of an existing judgment of the court. Like I said earlier, Femi Falana, the learned senior advocate of Nigeria, stood in for labor, J.U.K. SAN, myself, and
you are on the government side.
Yeah, we're the government side. We worked for the federal government.
Before we leave, Senator Enang, quickly here, before we leave, I want you to make clear of paragraph 38 of the president's speech. Let's take a listen and see what the president said about that.
We are also monitoring the effect of exchange rate and inflation on gasoline prices. If and when necessary, we will intervene.
Very much there. If and when necessary, will we intervene? He says specifically the government is monitoring the effects of the exchange rate and inflation on gasoline prices. If and when necessary, they will intervene. Doesn't this also go against the whole essence of deregulation if you have an intervention from government?
No. Mr. President made a policy statement. And when you make a policy, you have a right to review. And you review it after an appraisal. There is what is called policy intelligence. Every government has policy intelligence team. The policy intelligence team will assess that this is the policy that is made. This policy that we made, what has been the effect on food prices? What has been the effect on vehicles? What has been the effect on productivity? People stopping work and going to work 3 days a week. What has been the effect on productivity on the economy? What is the effect that what is happening to the lower sector of the workers? How many people, even in the petroleum sector, are able to earn? If you go to filling station, you'll see how many pumps are selling. And it also affects how many people. And of course, so that's what Mr. President is saying. And of all this, he said many things, but this was very highly appreciated by all. I want Mr. President to, as he assembles his team, bring this onto the table and see what do we do about this. Because policy review is not part of weakness.
Does not look
strength.
like policy review in
policy reappraisal.
In a sense, because if you say, if and when necessary, we will intervene. In a deregulated sector, your intervention will mean that you just want to put a pause on deregulation.
No. If you can intervene by deregulating, you can intervene. There is no sector that cannot be fully deregulated. Okay, take for instance, there is something I suggested, which I have suggested to the a middle core level, and that we are working on it at the core level of government. I'm suggesting, look, right now, if you go to Europe, most refineries in Europe, because of the situation, the policy in Nigeria, they don't have enough crude to refine. And when they refine, they don't have enough to sell in Nigeria. 3, they are not operating most of their refineries at optimum capacity. So the option is, and most of them are willing to, sell the refineries as institute in Nigeria, in Europe. And then you decouple it, and then bring it into 2 or 3 containers. It will take 2 or 3 containers by their size. You containerize it in 3 containers, bring it to Uyo, Eket, Ibono. You go take it to Delta, Rivers, Bayelsa, install it near any of the pipelines. And then they just produce, keep it, and then they refine. Then you would have reduced the price to about 100, 150 liters. So this is an option that is available to government. So this is what Mr. President should put on the table for his cabinet to see. If the man in charge of petroleum, the man in charge of the national planning should be able to go to Europe, go to these refineries, see those that are ready. Korea has many. I worked on this as an advisor. I worked on some of these. We have many of them which are decommissioning. So you don't even have to wait.
Is this similar to modular refineries?
It's just the same refineries that are refining the petrol that we are importing. They don't have enough market. They don't have enough cells.
But to be closer to the raw material, the crude. You move it closer to where the crude is.
These refineries that refine, which I'm talking about, are waiting for crude from Nigeria. You have the crude, take it from here, go there, they refine for you, and you bring it back. So if you go buy off those refineries, and then bring them here. Meanwhile, while you do that, you now have another team that will be importing refined petroleum product, back to Nigeria, where you eliminate custom duty, tax, VAT, as a means of reducing the pain on the citizens. You will be able to get petrol at about 250, 280 naira. In addition to allowing the system in the Niger Delta, the modular refineries, the artisanal refineries, to also refine and put in the refining system. I believe that these are the kind of things that the cabinet of the East Intelligence may think of a policy looking at. On the exchange rate, finally, on the exchange rate. Now, I think they may have to have, I'm suggesting, I listened to the, Wale Dun, and I listened to Adelabu. I was very impressed by them. Very impressed. They were like the stars of the day, because not that others are not stars. They showed expertise on this. And I will urge that it is necessary that government should have some level of control over exchange rate on certain matters, so that because it is a national security question. It is a national security question. Right. Take, for instance, when we procured arms from the US, and if we had to procure at 800 naira to a dollar or 700 naira to a dollar, it would have been terrible for the economy. That it will procure at a lower rate, a standard government rate. Let us find a way and return back to that for certain government procurement of national security dimension, because we will not go on that. We will not be able, the naira is not gradually, it's too fast depreciating. It's almost getting to Zimbabwe. I apologize for this word.
Well, anyway, I think it's a place for us to say many thanks for being such a nice company, Senator Enang.